Good morning. Also, alright guys, today we have a little butterfly guard beginner's guide. We finished our De La Riva kind of lessons last time. We covered pretty much, I'd say maybe 70 or 60% of De La Riva. It's a lot more, but hopefully we got the idea of what to do from there. And now we're gonna move on to the butterfly guard. Turn the music down a bit. Morning, Steve. Can you guys hear me fine? Alright. So playing butterfly nogi can be, well, as a beginner, a bit frustrating, since it's quite different from other guards, whereas in the person has to be on their knees for you to be able to play butterfly guard. It can be very difficult for you to start it from someone who's standing, but there are ways to make them go to their knees at some point. But just remember the time we're going to use this, usually when the person's on their knees. Now there's two types of butterfly we're going to kind of look at today. One is a distance kind of butterfly, and one is in close. Usually they're the only types of butterflies you can play. We have covered half butterfly in the past, which I won't cover today. So all of these moves are kind of the person on their knees. You don't have a half guard in place, so you're just in this sort of position. The person who's standing would rather be in sitting guard, but if they're on their knees like this is when we start playing butterfly. The couple of tips I can give you in terms of body positioning. We want our head to always be kind of leaning in front of our hips. That makes you a bit more stable. And then we have our kind of leg positioning depending on what we're doing, right? There's mixed feelings about having feet inside while the person's too far away from you. Some people say it's safer to keep the foot on their hips while you're far away, and when you're quite close, two butterflies are usually the option. But we will look at them. We're going to start with the distance one first. So the person's not engaging on you, they don't want to come in close, so you kind of have to attack by using hand fighting. It's another important lesson. I'll probably do a proper hand fighting lesson at some point, but for now we're just going to look at these. But arm drags is our first little kind of move I'll teach to a beginner. Very versatile from lots of different scenarios, but it will give you one move for when the person's being cagey and you can't get in close to them. So you can do arm drag several ways, but here we're gonna be hand fighting. I'm gonna get a 2-on-1 grip like this, and there's several ways of doing this arm drag. You can push the arm into them and then drag, which is what usually people tell you to do. You can just double drag with both hands, and there's other separate grips that you can take as well, but I'll just do the traditional one here. I got that 2-on-1 grip, pull her shoulder towards me, and I start getting up. Now the get up can be a bit tricky if you're not ready for it. So if you are doing an arm drag, usually kind of withdraw your leg out from the butterfly guard so you can bring it back, and then it's just a kind of a pull slash knee get up like this. Now you could have your hook in place. I kind of took my hook off there, but you could stay with that hook inside. But as long as you get to the back, it's fine. A little tip, if you do get to the back, is to not just hold the seatbelt straight away. You can hold the seatbelt, but try to control the far arm as soon as you can, so you can roll into the person or get a seatbelt. That's the first move we're gonna have from the butterfly distance kind of guard. Now you can master this move and you can become really effective with it, and even if you don't get to the back, it opens up different scenarios for us. So we've dragged here, but this time I wasn't able to expose the back like this. And there's several ways she can counter me, but one of them is they step up on one leg and they rip their arm out. So it looks like this. She steps up on her leg to stop kind of the pull, and then she's just trying to withdraw that arm backwards. This is a good window to go for one leg X. So from here, I'm just gonna scoot in and take one leg X instead. So you see this a lot when you're playing butterfly. Transitions to different guards to make the person stand maybe, and to set up different kind of submissions and opening up more of the legs and the arms at some point, or even the neck. So this is our second transition here, an arm drag to a single leg X, sorry. You could just do this anytime they are stepped up on that leg as well. A lot of people kind of play the sitting guard game with one leg up. If they do, just know you have a window to go to one leg X like this. Another one, this is kind of a more of aggressive, kind of active one, is a double leg. So again, I'm going to initiate the arm drag. She pulls back, and when she does, I'm just going to come up to a double leg like that. If the person's not ready, could end up in a great scenario like this, but just know if things go wrong, you're probably gonna end up in the bottle of turtle. So if she was fast enough to bring her legs back and sprawl on you, you'd be in trouble. But the benefit of doing a double leg from this is, because they're on their knees, it's a little bit harder for them to sprawl. So I get my head to one side and then I push to the other. That's our arm drag to a double leg. So far we had two little moves from one arm drag scenario. If we can get the arm drag to the back, happy days. If you can't get the arm drag and they step up, we've got a single leg X transition. And if you just want to kind of get up to a double, that's another option as well. Alright, so that's our first little, these three moves would be the first techniques I teach to a beginner in a distant scenario of butterfly guard. And again, with all of these, it's important to talk about the leg positionings, the hand fighting, and the dangers of being in butterfly, of course. But for now, I'm just focusing on the moves itself. Your other option from a distance kind of butterfly guard is our collar ties. A collar tie is a tricky one because it can be a defensive position and an attacking position, so I can use it to stop passes, to move around, to switch kind of styles, or to even get up. Or I can use it for guillotines and other kind of transitions. But a kind of basic kind of move is what we call a hip heist or a get up or technical stand. which basically is I take my collar tie. I haven't had any luck with the hand fighting or the drags, and the person is not being too active. So I'm going to take a collar tie instead and do a technical stand to snap down to get to front headlock position, so I can attempt to change to the back. Again. Now this move isn't used quite often in gi, but we see a lot in no gi to set up moves or to make the person engage a little bit more, because if they were to stop you, they'll be grabbing your legs and kind of pushing back, which lets you kind of transition back to your butterfly guard. So don't be afraid to just use this whenever nothing is going on during the match, because the worst thing that could happen is as you get up, they grab your legs and put you back down, and as long as you keep a good body positioning, you should end up in butterfly still, or a different guard of some sort. But that's the hip heist. And again, best case scenario, we end up on the back like that. So these movesets would be kind of my first strategy if I was fighting against a person who wasn't engaging on me, or I wasn't able to get to the optimum positions that I'm going to show now. Okay, so all of these now, we've managed to somehow get in close to the person, and we are playing actual butterfly, tight butterfly now. And there's two main distinct kind of styles of playing butterfly. One is a single underhook and one is a double underhook. Those are very important to recognize as the person on the top and the bottom, because you give you different moves. But here's our first one. So here I'm using a 2-on-1 grip to just getting close, but I've managed to get a single butterfly, sorry, a single underhook on the right side over here. Now underhook wise, you don't want it too low because the person can re-swim. Just under their armpit is good enough, but the next best swing is our head positioning and making sure that we can't get pushed back, because once we're flat, we're kind of not happy in those scenarios. So we want to kind of position ourselves a bit off to the side, so that if the person was to push us back, we wouldn't land flat, but would land sideways on. My head wants to be next to hers, and that's mainly to stop her base, because some people can base on their head and start doing cartwheels over you and that kind of stuff. But if you position your head properly, you won't give them the chance to do that. Well, that's the first factor of the butterfly sweep, just my body positioning. Often it's quite good to just put this hand on the mat first and then scoot to the side if you're unsure of where to be. Another factor is our knee over there, which you can't see. It needs to be pointed out slightly so that it doesn't get crushed down towards the side. But this is a regular one here. And then from here, I'm just going to collapse onto my side, take her base with me, which is her wrist, and then use our butterfly hook to sweep. So again, I scoot in, get in tight, head positioning, grab the wrist or push her elbow in, get onto my side, and here I'm going to base on the 3 points, which is my head, my knees, and my toes. Which, let me see if I can pause it at some point. You can see there, you can slightly kind of get the idea of it. I should be up on this knee, I'm on my head here, and on my toes. And that's a kind of regular butterfly sweep that should be been to any nogi class, you're probably going to learn this at some point. Probably the most fundamental nogi sweep you're going to learn. So that's our single hook variation. there's sort of a bounce that you want to learn when you're doing this butterfly sweep, which is against good people, they'll kind of base quite well like a little cat on their leg if they're quick enough, and you need to be able to kind of follow through with a little bounce in action to be able to finish off the sweep. Eden Sean, good morning. Little butterfly. So once I get here, Chris is gonna kind of base on her leg, and now this is where the real work comes in the butterfly guard. I need to be able to use those points that I talked about, my head, my knees, and my toes, to kind of bounce and follow her through like that. So you can kind of see it slightly. So I take my single on the hook, I start off my sweep, she tripods, and then I need to tripod on my head, nose, head, kind of knees and toes, and then bounce to finish off the sweep. Now every good butterfly player does this. Really important to kind of get that through, because against people who have a good base, that's what's gonna finish the sweep. So far we did our arm drags from distance control. Person's been KG. That's our first move. Depending on their reaction, we can go to single leg if they step up on one leg. Single leg X. This could also be a single or a double if you're feeling quite explosive. Then we kind of learned about the hip heist, which is we can get a collar tie and do our technical stand if nothing is going on in the match. And best case scenario, we've managed to get that single underhook, and we can start playing tight kind of butterfly instead. So very big distinction between far kind of butterfly and tight butterfly. Now if you are gonna play tight positions like this, we need to know how to switch sides, because often when we go for our initial butterfly sweep, what heavy players kind of do is they'll lean all their weight to one side. So here, if Chris knows that I'm gonna start sweeping towards that direction because I have this on the hook, she's gonna start putting all her weight on this kind of side, and it makes it really difficult for you to do the regular sweep. So that's when we start switching sides. So here I'm attempting to do my butterfly sweep to this side. I can already feel her tensing up and putting her weight towards this direction. So instead of trying to force the sweep, which we could if we were in the perfect angle, that would be me a bit more sideways, you could still force the sweep, and you probably end up sweeping them if your body position is perfect. But if your body position isn't, you probably find it really difficult, and this is when we're kind of going to switch sides. So a lot goes on in this switch, but I'm going to switch from controlling her arm to an overhook. It's really important. And now I'm not in a great kind of position right now. If she was to pressure me, I'd be flattened out, which is no good. So I'm going to use my underhooking side to kind of position myself to the side. That's really important here. There. If you don't do that, again, you're probably going to end up flattened out and pressured. So it has to be a quick transition. You have to drill it quite a bit. But I go from an overhooking, hand it on the floor, and I shrimp to the side. Now it doesn't matter if she pressures me, because if she does, she'll go right into the sweep. Now I just need to take her base on this side. So there, I take her triceps, and then I sweep her over to the other side. So again, Try the initial sweep, doesn't work, switch sides with a wizard, and then follow up on the other side. Now, that's the regular sweep, as in fast versions, like this. Now, there is a way of doing this tight, but it requires you to have great head positioning. You remember when I talked about earlier, I kind of always want my head on the same side that I'm sweeping. So if I'm sweeping to this side, I want my head here. If I'm sweeping to that side, I kind of want my head there. You could end up sweeping the person like this if you're quick enough with the wrong head positioning. Usually because her head is in the wrong kind of down here. But your ideal head positioning would be, after the switch, I switch my head as well. And now we're good to go, and that should be a perfect sweep there. But again, it's not impossible that you can just sweep people without doing the head positioning. But if you could, this would be a much more technical kind of scenario. But doing all the chaos is difficult to get that done. Now, if you don't do the head positioning, you do have different transitions, and quite a nice one is this one. Is our clamp guard, which we did do some in the past, but I'll quickly show it to you guys. So here's the same exact scenario. I try my initial sweep, she's too heavy. I switch, I hip out, and this time maybe I didn't have a good kind of wrist, or I didn't have a good head positioning. But one of the other options is just to sit back now, and because we angled ourselves to the side, we're in a very good scenario to start attacking our clamp guard like this, which we can initiate triangles, arm bars, omoplatas, okay, any sort of attack from there that you like. But this is a great attack. I first saw it from Eddie Bravo. He really likes this overhooking butterfly guard like this, which he has a different name for it. I forgot what he calls it. But this sort of wizard kind of butterfly, and anytime you have that, you have a chance to go to this clamp guard. Again, switch, lean back, and the main thing about clamp guard, you always want it to be kind of sideways like this. You're never in the center unless you're doing arm bars, and this heavy leg over the top kind of does all the job. So as long as you're doing that, you should be fine. And again, there's loads of attacks from here. I might do a clamp guard at some point. We have briefly looked at it, but there's so many transitions that you can go from here. It's a really good attacking position. So now we have a strategy for when the person is distant, which is our arm drag game, okay, and our collar tie game, which we have different moves, of course, for it. We have a strategy for a single underhook. So we got the regular sweep against the switching sides if they're heavy. This. But now we have another type of butterfly guard that we can play, which we call double underhooks. Now, double underhooks is one of the strongest kind of butterfly position, but it requires a kind of good set of, how do you call it, entries for it. You can't just come in and get double underhooks. There's a fight before that happens, which I don't cover much today, but usually there's some form of hand fighting and you've managed to get double underhooks, or you started off with a single and at some point you've managed to sneak in another underhook and get this double unders. Okay, so double unders, here we go. Now we're in a great spot to kind of choose where to bring the fight. Basically, I could at any point switch back to the single underhook to try to sweep. I could elevate the person now, and I can start attacking their arms or their neck. So if you get double underhooks, you should have a chain from there ready in your arsenal. Otherwise, you're just going to be kind of left behind. Talking about double underhooks, shrug your shoulders up to prevent people from re-swimming, and you're pretty much done. Okay, leg positioning wise, depending how strong your legs, just keep 2 butterfly hooks in. If the person's too heavy, maybe narrow your knees down a bit so that your shins kind of take the support of the person's weight a bit better. But generally, if you just kind of get there, it should be good. First one is going to be an elevation that we're going to do. So now I'm going to scoot underneath her and float her up. And now, again, okay, I float her up. Different reactions that people do. They could stand up, they could kind of stay floating around. But the first scenario is I've managed to lift her, and she just chooses to step up on one leg. And again, we're going to take up our single leg X or Ashigarami like before. So again, I get my double underhooks, I screw underneath her, shins together, float, kick one leg through, and that's us in one leg X. Okay. I think we saw this entry before in our one leg X lesson, but that would be our first kind of scenario. Really easy, causes the person to stand, especially if you're open guard player, or if the person's just being too passive on their knees. This is a great window to make them fight, because once you get them to stand, you'll be in an offensive scenario here where you can start your heel hooks and leg locks attacks, or use it as a sweep. So our first double unders move was a float to the one leg X. Now you could take that float to another level, and at some point you're going to learn saddle entries towards it, which are, you're going to float the person up, this, and if you can keep them in the air by kind of, I just do it by putting both hands on her hips, you have enough time to keep her in the air and set up our leg lock entries. This is at some point something you want to add as well, especially if you're doing nogi, because you got to learn the heel hook system, and that's another important one. So we have one leg X entry and a saddle entry over here. So yeah, for the saddle entry, just as long as they suspend their weight onto their hands, you can do this. I'm gonna make a shallow X, which you can see there, by positioning myself to the side, and then it's just a kick through with this leg to kind of get my knee positioning above hers and setting up the saddle. Once you learn the regular saddle entries, these will be a lot easier because the leg positioning will be the same. Once we do our leg lock classes as well, this will be much clearer once you start drilling it as well. But so far, 2 elevation moves that we learned from the double unders. There's loads more, but this will give you an insight on what to do from double unders. And we need to also be ready for a different reaction, which is yeah, upside down saddles are confusing. Start off with the back step ones from the top. Make your way into the butterfly version one, and then that one will be really easy. That's usually how I teach people. Once you get those 2, you'd be good. Now, for both of these scenarios, the person kind of stood up and they kind of let you elevate them. A lot of people won't let you elevate. You start off the process like this, and then they kind of push themselves back before, or they keep their legs really far away from you. So here, oh, where did my drawing tool go? It's not working. Hold on 1 second. It's working out. Yeah, here we go. So in this case, when they bring their legs back, and you can see it's harder for me to kind of start attacking the legs at this point because her weight's going back to her hips. This is a great time to start attacking the arms. So that's your two general kind of combinations you're going to do. 1, leg attacks, and 2, upper body attacks. So this time I'm going to let her sit back, but I'm going to start this kind of slide of her arm into a telephone kind of position, like this, and take this arm crush move. Again, float her up, she keeps walking back, so I start attacking the arm. Now there's loads of different setups for this arm crush, loads of leg positioning, but I think the most fundamental lesson you want to learn is how to keep this arm tight, which is by shrugging your shoulders towards your head, using your head, and then fixating on the arm rotation at the same time. Sorry. Those arrows that I draw like insanely messy, but just think of it like you want to create a wedge on her wrist so she can't pull out. And then leg positioning wise, you learn a bunch of different versions, but I'd say be aggressive with this kind of submission to get the tap early, because it is quite an easy kind of submission to roll out or to rip out quite quick. But now that we learned this arm crush, we gotta know the combos from the arm crush as well. Different scenarios here, but same arm crush kind of setup we're doing here. She bases, walk backwards. I start setting up my arm crush, and then I notice she hugs my head instead. Right? So right now it would be difficult for me to try to extend her arm. It's not impossible, but in this case we're gonna take a collar tie instead, and we're just gonna go back to our collar kind of butterfly sweep, but with a collar tie. So again, take that bundle, she moves back, she hugs my head to avoid the arm crush. I'm gonna take a collar tie or a double hug, any sort of grip that you can have, and because she's hugging me, she has no base to that side, and you get an easy sweep. Now you can take this one step further and use Marcelo Garcia's kind of setup, which is you start with double unders again, you start this arm crush, and you actually persist on the arm crush first. So here she hugged me, but I can still go for the arm crush, and now she can put pressure on me to avoid the arm crush, and I can kind of do this throat sweep using my gable grip instead underneath her neck. So either one works, either take that grip or loop it over her head. And here the benefit of this is I can use my elbow under her chin there to kind of use that sweeper, and my legs. Whoops. About to show it one more time. Float, extend, start attacking the arm, loop the arm over the head, and then start your chain from there. If you're doing the arm crush, you need to know these two little combinations. And I should have added another one here, which is when they rip out, for any case. So you're here, you start doing your arm crush here, and let's say she just rips it out. Basically from then on you've resetted the whole drill. So now it's either distance, any of these moves, go for them straight away, or look for your single underhook. So you can see us going around in circles when we're playing butterfly guard. To be honest, there's not, all those little positions there are gonna kind of combine together at some point to create a sweep or expose a leg or limb. But again, you're gonna get creative with them. There's lots of neck attacks, lots of kimuras from there, but this gives you a basic kind of understanding of the butterfly and which moves to go and which times. So just to quickly recap everything, the person's being cagey on their knees, you're not able to get your single underhooks or double underhooks, look for arm drags. From the arm drag, be ready to switch. If they step up on one leg, that's our indicator to go to Ashigarami or one leg X. If they rip out, you can do a double leg if you like. Collar tie is another option against someone who's not engaging to a technical stand, or hip heist we call it. If we manage to get single underhooks, that's our time to go for a regular butterfly sweep. Remember the key details of the butterfly. Get up. Body positioning is one of them, of course, but the bounce on your head, knees and toes. If you are going to play the single underhook, we also need to learn to switch sides. Person's heavy on one side, I switch, and then I start my sweeps from there. Again, the head positioning is important from that. Know that we have some butterfly clamp guard action from there as well, which is really good if you're a submission hunter. And eventually, if you can't get any of those, but you can get a double unders, we have our double unders chain as well. So float them up to one leg X. Our saddle entry at some point, we're gonna learn it. And then our arm crush. If they base on their wrist, you can't get the legs, but they expose the upper body there, we take that instead. So should have a decent strategy here for whatever happens from the butterfly guard, more saddle entries and etc. But any questions so far, fire them away. Again, this is kind of a beginner's kind of insight on what you're looking for, but the main thing I want people to get out of it is distance. The types of butterfly guard. So we have the distant type, which is the person far away from us. We have single underhooks. So this would be kind of our primary moves. Arm drag would be from the person far away. Single underhooks, regular butterfly sweep, and double underhooks. Two main moves, the arm crush or the floating the person up to get them up. And as long as you learn those, you have kind of more knowledge than people who don't know anything about butterfly basically, and it'll give you an insight on what combinations to go for. But like I said, we're gonna do, there's an important hand fighting lesson there, which is difficult, that we need to learn, and we need to learn all the dangerous kind of passes that people can do to us from the butterfly guard, which we'll also do in the future lessons. Cool? But that is it for the lesson today, guys. If you got any questions, fire them away. again, it's way easier to kind of see all of this in your life, but hopefully this gives you an easy understanding of the butterfly. Cool. I think this week I don't have any new rows this week. We didn't train much last week with Chris, so that would be it for today. But I should have some new rows for us to break down next week. Or if you guys have any matches that you like to get me to look at, just email them to me. Here's my email. And I can just take a look and we can break them down at the end of the lesson, if you like. Alright. Yeah, butterfly, it's really uncomfortable if you're coming from gi and you've never played butterfly. But it's probably the most important guard you want to learn in no gi. I kind of train more gi, but so my butterfly isn't as good as my other guards, so I did struggle a lot with butterfly at the start as well, especially because I can't bend my knees very well towards my heel. But once you kind of start learning it, you kind of appreciate it a bit more. And the beauty about it is, especially these kind of arm crushes and butterfly sweeps, no one in the gi kind of uses it as much. So once you go back to the gi, you have some new little moves. Fire away, Steve. Boom, 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 boom. Let me see this music. Oh yeah, and if you guys want some good butterfly free content, just watch any Marcelo Garcia stuff, or Adam Wachinski in the gi is probably the best butterfly guy. All of the basic no-gi guards, so it would be butterfly, one leg X, which is this, and sitting guard, or shin to shin we call it as well. Those are the main three I'd say for any regular. If you're starting no-gi, that's the three guards I'll teach you. If you're my student, you'll be shin to shin, butterfly, and one leg X. That'll be the first I'd focus on. And then from then, you can find chains to any other kind of position. Half butterfly is another good one, because it combines everything together. And half guard as well, that's fine. But that's the main ones. Butterfly is, I'd say, in this day and age, it shouldn't be advanced guard anymore. Especially if you're doing no-gi. I'd say a few years ago, yes, butterfly and one leg X are quite advanced. But I think every kind of beginner gym that does no-gi is teaching one leg X's, footlocks, and butterflies to their students. Because your traditional guards, like close guard and mainly close guard in no-gi, is really difficult to start. You could learn all your arm bars and that kind of stuff, but it's really difficult to actually get it going in a match. But yeah, those are the guards I'll complement with, and I don't think it's advanced at all. Yeah, you can get to advanced levels, but your basic one leg X move is you just sweep the person from one leg X. The entry is probably the hardest part about it. Once you're there, they're all good. Cool. Awesome. Alright guys, I'll leave you to it. Have a lovely week. I'll see you guys on Friday. On Friday, we'll probably do the passing so you guys can see. Or I might do a hand fighting one or entries. Cool. If you guys got any videos you want me to break down on the next lesson, just send it to that email. And okay, where is it? Bye bye, have a lovely